Hello and welcome to the CSPC 2025 interview series. My name is Calvin Lee and I'm joined here today by Dr. Dugan O'Neill, the Vice President of Research and Innovations at Simon Fraser University. Welcome.
Thank you.
So your panel discussions on sovereign computing is very incredibly interesting. So can you tell us again about what's sovereign compute in the context of national innovation strategy, and why do you believe it is essential for Canada's innovations and economic competitiveness?
Sure. So right now, if a company in Canada or even a university researcher in Canada wants to use most AI tools, they'll go online and they'll send their information to another country. Typically the United States, but to another country. And so if in Canada we're trying to build domestic secure supply chains, for example, the Canadian government is going to be investing a lot of money over the coming years in the military. If we would like Canadian companies to be able to compete to be part of the supply chain for those contracts, they should have a secure Canadian place they can go and know that they're not transmitting their information across borders. It's particularly the case in Canada that this is an issue, in part because with the same issue as the rest of the world, that there's a small number of large companies, typically US companies, that dominate the AI space. But I would say sometimes we have a false sense of security in Canada because some of the data centers are located here. But those data centers, if they're still owned by companies from other jurisdictions, they may still be subject to the laws of those other countries. And so without a domestic industry, we're really not providing the kind of platforms and infrastructure that Canadian companies need to grow in Canada.
And how do you see sovereign compute enabling transformation in key sectors such as healthcare, energy, logistics, and defense?
So there's different issues affecting each of those areas. The healthcare is a great example because Canadians have a lot of very good quality health data right across the country, no matter which province you're in. But that health data should be private. It should be secure. We should have some control over how it's used. And if we do decide that we want to commercialize it, it should be, or extract value from it, then it should be a decision that we make. It shouldn't just be something that happens to the people of Canada. It should be a decision that's made. So in healthcare, there's a clear issue with private personal data of Canadians. With defense, I've already mentioned the need for Canadian companies to be able to be in the supply chain for military contracts, and without some kind of sovereign capacity, that's a difficult bar to surmount. And then in other sectors, like logistics, for example, or in chemistry or in physics, I'm a physicist. Sometimes what you need, it's less about personal information and security, it's more about the capacity that you have access to do the calculations that you need to do. And if you're going to solve really complex optimization problems like in logistics, then you need some serious computational power. And right now, the Canadian landscape, we're a bit underpowered when it comes to the availability of sovereign compute infrastructure.
I think we already touched on this, but I'm just going to ask anyway.
Okay.
What are the biggest risks Canada would face if we continue to rely on foreign-owned infrastructures for AI and quantum innovation development?
Yeah, we have touched on some of it, that Canadian companies in particular can't be part of certain supply chains where we want them to be a part of, like in defense supply chains. But I think it's broader than that. we have to, in Canada, create an innovation ecosystem where companies that want to develop the next killer app, the next ubiquitous tool, like everybody using Google Maps in their car as they drive, they need to have the infrastructure in Canada to be able to develop those tools. And that kind of infrastructure, in previous generations, government was called upon to build, the Trans-Canada Highway or a railway link across the country to open up parts of the country to create more innovation from coast to coast. And in the modern world, it's networks and computers and storage of data that is that fundamental infrastructure that opens up innovation to a much broader cross-section of the population to be able to create their own tools and their own companies to employ Canadians.
That's great analogies. Can you share how Simon Fraser University is contributing to the national effort to build AI and quantum infrastructures? What unique strengths or initiatives is the university leveraging to support this strategic development?
Well, for the last 20 years or so, we've been a major provider of shared supercomputing infrastructure that people have used to develop AI tools and AI approaches since before we were calling it AI regularly. And we currently run the largest academic supercomputer in the country. It's called FIR. It's in our Cedar Supercomputing Center. And we serve more than 17,000 researchers from across the country on that platform. So part of what we're contributing is expertise on how to build and operate such a platform. Part of it is training capacity, teaching researchers across the country how to make use of powerful tools like our supercomputing. And part of it is a kind of disciplinary expertise as well. So it's not just about how do you use the latest tool on the latest supercomputer, but if you're a chemist, how do you use the latest tool on a latest supercomputer? If you're a physicist, if you're studying humanities using digital tools, we have people in all of those areas providing support for novel uses of shared platforms.
That's great to hear as an SFU alumni. And looking ahead, what policy or investment decisions do you believe are critical to ensure Canada remains a leader in AI and quantum innovations? Are there any international models or best practices that Canada could consider adapting to strengthen its position?
Yes, I would say that internationally, most often, these kinds of infrastructures are in some way associated with the university. Either a university or a big national research laboratory, a place where people are trying to push the boundaries of the technology and what it can do, and are, in a curiosity-driven way, trying to improve the system. And we need a system in Canada where we bring that kind of approach into the mix and we fund it with public money. We also need in Canada to recognize that when things get to a certain scale, they're going to be offered as services by industry. And so I think what the best situation for us in the future is to have a collaboration between the university sector and industry and government in order to deliver the infrastructure that the innovation community needs. And if you pick just one or two of those, it won't succeed. If you go a purely industry route, you'll miss that key cutting edge innovation, the testing of new platforms and new ways of doing things that happens in an academic sphere. If you go just to the academic sphere, you'll often miss the translation to industry scale that's needed with that only industry partners can bring to the conversation. And without government money, it doesn't spur this kind of ecosystem to develop in the first place. So you need all three partners at the table.
Absolutely. And finally, what's your opinion on the value that the CSPC, the Canadian Science Policy Centre, and its positions in the community as a connection hub, knowledge mobilizer, and talents incubator in the science and innovation policy landscape?
Well, I have to say this conference is the place to be. We were just talking beforehand. I think I must have come to 6 or 7 of the last 8 or 9 of these conferences. Everybody is here. All the conversations are happening in the panels, but they're also happening in the hallways. And so the work that CSPC does all throughout the year, culminating in this event, is really unique in Canada. And I've been having conversations at this with some folks from other parts of the world, talking about the fact they need to bring this kind of model to their country as well. To really, it's very rare that this cross-section of the community comes together and has a common conversation, and CSPC lets us do that.
I think that's all for today. Thank you for being
Excellent.
part of our interview series. I hope you have a great rest of the conference.
Okay.